Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Recreation Rooster Podcast, a podcast for health, recreation enthusiasts. This is Dan Chiava. I'm here with Maisha Jones.
Hello, guys. Here all the way
Uh,
from Los Angeles.
yeah. And of course, we got a special guest today, our first ever, Dr. Susan Ross, as well. So we're gonna take you through a few of our segments, and then we will go and what do you call it? Talk with Dr. Ross about you know a lot of what her experiences are and everything about her feedback for the profession. So, um, so we're gonna start out with the quote of the day. The quote of the day is I'm gonna do in our leisure we reveal what kind of people we are. In our leisure we reveal what kind of people we are. Um, what does that mean to you all? That means a lot in many ways. Wait, there's a lot to
Absolutely.
unpack there.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, people say follow the money, meaning that if you really want to know what somebody values and how they spend their time, oftentimes people say look at the receipts. And let's just be honest and frank about it. When it comes to leisure and what people do during their unstructured time, during their unobligated time, really speaks to what they value. And it may be things that might be socially accepted. It might be things that are not. I mean, we are all very complex people. And that's the thing that makes the human condition so amazing, right? So intricate. It's because we do have the ability to, during our free time, to really explore the world and really to connect with others. And even today, we connect with things that are inanimate with technology in order to connect with others. So I definitely agree with that quote of the day. It really resonates with me as a human being, as a recreation therapist, when it comes to all the leisure batteries and stuff we put in place with our clients to really tap into who they are as an individual and what they're interested in. So, yeah, that quote really resonates with me. How about you, Doctor?
Mm. Oh boy, excuse me. Um, yeah, I think I need to have a little water.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Mhm.
So, first, thanks for having me on your show, and also I get so lucky to be one of the first guests on your show, which is really fun. And I would say that you know when we were in COVID and we all went into lockdown, the whole world, and here we were, so many of us in a situation where we didn't have we had all we had essentially more time because we weren't driving around, we weren't going here and there, we were stuck in one place, and so we essentially had more time, and then what to do with it. And it really helped to highlight for me how this importance of leisure, like we've been teaching and knowing and studying and paying attention to leisure, recreation, and play forever. We have in our community, but it wasn't until COVID when I got a chance to really talk with my students about, now do you see the significance of leisure, and how do you want to be in it? And so, like, spending time, how we spend time is an incredible reflection of who we are at our essence, you know. And they always, the philosophers say, um, that leisure is an definitely a reflection of our essence. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, I feel like, just when you think about it, we're kind of always creating and recreating who we are, who we become. It is through our leisure that we kind of create and recreate our values, beliefs, ideals, ideas, and really kind of, like you were saying, the essence of who we are. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, it
Mm-hmm.
speaks really closely to our concept of time as well. I believe that we have like, two or three different schools of thought when it comes to how we actually use our time. We have those that, you only live once, live life with reckless abandonment, right? And then you have those planners who look forward to the future, and then you have those persons, like in my opinion, who more so um linger in time, if that makes any sense, as well. So I think that oftentimes we as recreation therapists, we have to embrace, our clients' perspective on time and perspective on what their preferred leisure is, and not be judgmental in it, right? Not be
Mm-hmm.
judgmental in it, but also speaking to, any kind of, safety risk or any other type of positive benefits to what their already established leisure is. So I love that quote. That's a great quote, Dan.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. I just came up with it. Yeah.
In our next segment, we're gonna do, as we always oftentimes do, is our song of the day. And oftentimes we want to try to use a song that inspires our audience, and that oftentimes recreation therapists use and practice to inspire others. And one song that comes to me is, of course, Michael Jackson. I oftentimes love to use his music in programming, and I think of "Rock with You," and it pretty much is a serenade. It's a serenade between, two individuals, be it, woman and man, man and man, woman and woman, where there is a connection. There is a connection, and then there is it like a slow groove, but also a communication that is going on, where both persons are saying, "Hey, I'm so interested in you. I want to rock with you. I want to spend time with you. I want to get to know you. There's things about me that's interesting that I want to share with you." And then just, being very non-judgmental, but also being very, I was playful and flirty in the approach and concept. And I find that that resonates a lot with a lot of clients when it comes to that early morning warm up before we do physical fitness. And just really, just having that bass line and that melodic and harmonic melody hook. A lot of clients tend to resonate with it. So for this particular episode, which is our first, guest series with Dr. Suzy, the song of the day is "Rock with You" by Michael Jackson. Yeah. What do you think about that song? Anybody use MJ or any of his songs in programming?
Mm.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, of course, I've definitely used, songs like that. And I mean, in knowing in long-term care, oftentimes what I've done is, after people have had their, coffee and, all that kind of thing, get them moving. If you get blood to the brain kind of early in the morning, uh, that gets them set up a little bit better to do a cognitive activity. So, it's all very strategic, and something like that can really get them, the choice of songs and everything like that can really get moving as well.
Mm.
So, yeah, definitely helpful. Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I can see also with that particular song would be great just for movement
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
got such a fantastic
Mhm.
beat and rhythm and then the lyrics and whatnot, and it's kind of playful. And so I can see that that would be a really fun one as far as helping people to move.
Yes, yes.
Mhm,
I know
mhm,
oftentimes over the years working in environments where there was low sensory load for the clients, meaning
mhm,
we're just kind of in a very stark, bland, quiet, or encouraged to be quiet type of environment, that, having a more, like you said, doctor, a more upbeat song, it helps to kind of help them to recharge a little bit, or kind of give them that little, jump start to their day.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, as we know, as far as our biorhythms and even our sleep habits and stuff, it's important for us to have a jump start to our day. And then, of course, it can be just the opposite for a person that's in a high stress, high environmental stimuli, high performing, high pressure career or lifestyle. Being able to do just the opposite, utilizing music and movement to de-stress them, to relax them, is actually some of the great things we do as recreation therapists. So yeah, we have
Mhm.
nice catalog of songs that we can use from all over the world. And I just think music is a great tool that we as recreation therapists can use in a myriad of modalities. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, Dan, let's get started. We want we
Absolutely.
want to go ahead and we want to introduce you guys to Dr. Suzy Ross. I wanted to really express my appreciation to you, Dr. Ross, for joining us today. I know
Yeah.
you're a very busy woman, have a lot going on. I had the pleasure of meeting you. I actually had heard of Dr. Ross many years before I met you. you know,
Mm.
your reputation precedes. And I got the opportunity to meet you just a few years back through different association and affiliated groups that both of us are a part of as health practitioners, as recreation therapists, as persons that are very much interested in the health, wellness, and happiness of our communities.
Mm.
I was just taken aback with your passion, your competence, and your aptitudes, and then your action. Meaning, you have a lot of people who talk and say how amazing RT is, but you have those that actually do, and you see tangible deliverables through your many many works and passions, and also through your students. So I'm just so happy that you're here, and I'm so happy Dan that Dan made it happen. That Dan happened. Um, so yeah, it's with great pleasure to introduce you on my part. Dan, can you tell us a little bit before we have Dr. Ross formally introduce herself to the audience, and then we can get into our questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dr. Ross is amazing. I know she's written a book. She's a professor at San Jose State University. Um, and there's probably even more that I don't know of. You know, is there anything else you want to add, Susie? Am I missing anything? Uh,
No, that's all plenty. Yes.
hmm
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So, yeah, no, it's very, very, very lovely to meet Susie, really. And I'm very happy about that. So, I think the first question I think we're going to ask her for part of this is regarding the mathematics of learning, I guess you could almost say. Um, so is there any concept that you feel like could be taken away from college curriculum that's obsolete? Uh, and is there anything that ought to be added? In
Mm.
a way, like I know that uh, I mean, of course, this is, I mean, of course, you probably, of course, craft your own curriculums in a way at San Jose State University, but uh, universally in the field, is there anything that has become obsolete, and is there anything that uh, could benefit from being added? I mean, I know depending on the program, um, some schools may be more uh, up to date than others, etc. But you know, is there anything
Mhm.
you could think
Mhm.
anything
Yeah,
about?
and are you thinking of recreation curriculum or recreation therapy or both?
Uh, uh, both.
Yeah, both. We
Mhm.
this
Yeah,
podcast
both.
for recreation and leisure enthusiasts, so it does
Mhm.
cover the therapeutic aspect of recreation,
Right.
Mhm.
also general recreation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. You know, I'm probably my I think it's important to look at um, what is our potential as people who oversee and shepherd this very precious thing, recreation, leisure, and play. You know, because I'm a little bit of an outlier as far as I'm guessing, as far as what would ideal curriculum look like if we were to imagine uh, a new generation of recreation professionals that offer new frontiers of what recreation, leisure, and play could be. And so when I think about that, like that's what gets me really excited. And it's not necessarily entirely realistic because there are many, as you know, um, jobs and professions in the recreation industry is so vast and so diverse
Mhm.
that that the curriculum oftentimes has to be more generalist so that you provide the students with a sort of baseline of that vast industry, and then everyone goes out into the world and finds their niche, you know. And so I think that having a sort of generalist degree in that kind of situation is really been where it's it's necessary to have it that way. At the same time, um, I think about Cal Poly, and Cal Poly has been one of the leaders in my view in recreation curricula, because they have made the bold decision to call the name of their department experience industry management.
Wow.
And I'm just enamored by that. I'm inspired by that because um experience industry, which, you know, the experience economy, which was introduced by Harvard economists Hine and Gilmore, and they wrote the book Experience Economy. I don't know, it was at least 15 years ago, but it changed the world. And as far as being able to introduce this idea that over the past 100, 200 years, the world has been progressing with their economic base. So, for example, the economic base for so long was trading goods, you know, and then it became, and I might not get this progression exactly right, correct, because I haven't looked at it lately, but there was the sale of goods, there was the manufacture. Oh, I'm sorry, there was the trade of like um, spices and like natural things, and then there was the creation of goods, and then there was the sale of goods, then there was the sale of services,
Right.
and services became the industry, but then after services became experiences.
Yes.
And so now for example, one of the forerunners of that was Disney World, right?
Yes.
And like BMW, it was the driving experience.
Yes.
um, but after the experience economy is the transformation economy. And we're already entering into the transformation economy. And so I can talk more about that later, but just kind of finish off this thought and hand it back to you all is I think that's an edge, a growing edge that's based on a worldwide proven phenomena of of the economic basis that drives the whole world, is that people are experiencing, that people want to pay for experiences. Well, that's our job.
That is
We facilitate experiences, right? And
absolutely.
so in me, the growing edge, all if I were to have a magic wand, I would love for recreation curricula to have a whole, at least one class in experience design, and grow the edge of our knowledge about our facilitation. because we
Mm.
already are really great at facilitating, but what's the edge of our facilitation is really knowing that we're facilitating experiences, and what does that mean, and how can we do it more precisely with scientific background. And then of course the edge beyond that is facilitating transformation, which of course we're doing, but uh, to what degree are we doing it with transformation design?
Right.
There's experience design, and then there's transformation design. Oh wow, that's just even more on the edge, right? And so
Yeah.
these are the kinds of things, and I could go beyond that, but I feel like I want to just shush and see what y'all have to say.
Well, you gave us a nice bite, a nice size, spoonful to bite on, and I love that. And it resonates so much with me. Over the years, I have found that there has been a niche or a small group of artists that have really began to embrace that concept. And because I believe that, like you mentioned before, we're already in that era, but I feel like we're really moving forward and more forward in that area. Even with the SaaS, software as a service. Many of them embrace that same concept. They're just a vehicle to bring us along the experiential, you know, um, industry, the experience. And I wanted to mention too, it spoke so directly to me. I've been reading this one book called
Yeah.
Flow. It's called Flow. I don't know if you
Mhm.
see that,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, check them
Yep.
out on the
it's called
poster.
Flow by this particular author, Macaulay, and
Yeah,
Um,
check them out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm.
and it speaks.
Mahai checks at Mahai. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, of course, he was a cornerstone. That was a cornerstone theory that we used at SUNY Portland. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And the thing about it is, be at Florida State, I was not exposed to this author. But as I
Um,
began to want to sharpen my skills as a practitioner, and sharpen and enhance the quality of the experience that I offer, be it in a therapeutic goal or otherwise, I began to seek knowledge, right? And I'm so happy that I was able to now today speak to a professor like you who oh yes, speak to a professor like you who also embraces that as well. So I definitely believe that, as you said, adding to curriculum, meaning having a more generalized view, is important as well in preparing us to get out here and make it happen for our clients and to be viable in this new the new markets that are emerging. How about you, Dan?
yeah. Well, I mean, of course, I also have been one person to see if we can uh transform our experiences and like, I've heard a lot of teachers and psychologists talk about the moment when the person actually, in psychology develops insight, uh, or the aha moment, the light bulb moment that the student
This
um
is
actually
recorded.
actually gets what they're saying. Um, and actually learn something. So we can have through the transformation, I mean, I think we're very equipped to do that like all the time. Like I think almost what and I would like to even learn more about that concept of transforming experiences. And facilitating transformative experiences. And I'm sure that it is very aligned in many ways with Csikszentmihalyi and the flow theory as well, which, like I said, that was a cornerstone of kind of what my, recreation parks and leisure studies programs were
Mhm.
about when I got my undergraduate and graduate degrees. So,
Mm,
and
mm,
I throw it back to Dr. Ross. Your thoughts on all that? Mhm.
mhm. I think I think another frontier that started, I mean, in our the powerful philosophers, recreation, leisure play philosophers, 100 years ago, uh, and throughout the last 100 plus years, the other element that I think is a I've always wanted to see happen is is bringing spirituality or the spirit, and letting that come out of the closet, because if we when we look at the deep philosophies of recreation, leisure, and play, what we remember is that leisure and play awaken the human spirit, and they bring us alive in a way um that is like nothing else. And that spirit piece is something that we know in our community, but how can we be more um overt about it? How can we begin talking about that? How can we begin to speak about that with our clients, and or in our advertising, or in how we um design our job descriptions, or in the programs that we create? Because I think the time is coming for us to be able to start talking about it, right? It's kind of like the spiritual aspect of the body, mind, spirit aspect, the holisticness of our medicine, of recreation, leisure, and play. I think that is my most favorite horizon, both in curriculum and in practice. Because as the world enters into a transformation economy, essential to the transformation is also spiritual. Because when you have a life changing experience and then you allow that to change who you are, you inevitably encounter not only your own inner nature, the depths of your own inner nature, but you encounter something beyond yourself too. And all the medium through all that happens is recreation, leisure, and play. And so I think we have an opportunity to poise ourselves as leaders, as the transformation economy, and certainly as the experience economy continues to unfold, to help guide our community and the world in transforming.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. And like I was kind of onto before in some ways that persons, when the whole movement I know in healthcare to some degree has been person-centered care in a way with in terms of at least long-term care and some other types of areas, short-term rehab and that type of a thing. And uh yeah, because like you were saying, like, yeah, if people don't have a strong experience, they might not come and shop again with you or whatever. That's almost a business practice in many ways. So, I mean, basically, you're facilitating experiences and, of course, uh, transformation. And yeah, when you talk about transformation, you almost have to talk about spirituality. And of course, we really almost, in a way, do things with. Uh, that's what makes our profession so unique compared to, say, physical therapy and some of the other professions that we incorporate those concepts like spirituality and other things with regards to transformation. I mean, there have been ancient rituals and stuff that dancing and other strong, very powerful rituals that people do in their leisure and coming of coming of age rituals and other things that almost get them so high that they're so high without actually even having any inducing any substances or anything like that, just from dancing and other very sacred practices that of a very high spiritual nature. So
Mm,
that's kind of what I was thinking of when you were talking about,
mm,
spirit, transformation and spirituality. Uh,
mm,
uh
You
Yes.
know, and one of the things I think of immediately, especially for recreation therapists who may work in clinical settings or even in community settings, um, many times, especially if you work under the medical model, it's almost like the medical model relegates spirituality only to our chaplains, or
mm,
at times of, you know, imminent or or death, right? And I find that now with all of our new catchphrases like whole health, person centered care, integrated care, I noticed that what I see happening in the medical model or the recovery model is that there's just certain select spiritual practices that they accept and others they don't, right?
mhm,
In this era of inclusivity, right? And of embracing diversity and understanding that everyone is unique and that our diversity is our strength. And I find that with recreation therapists, we are really attuned and carry a great ability in our wheelhouse to build community and to really exercise what it means to add spirituality and inclusivity and transformation into recreation, leisure, and play, be it in a therapeutic way with a therapeutic goal or even outside of the clinical arena for an everyday citizen in our community. So I am definitely in agreement with you, Dr. Ross, that spirituality is definitely another component that should be added to the curriculum
mhm,
that
mhm,
practitioners um, use in our wheelhouses. Yeah, this is great.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, I mean definitely, I mean we're whole people. So definitely that definitely includes spirituality, and I would even argue that uh people like we were saying about before, the Csikszentmihalyi and the flow theory, those people who are really in the zone, uh that is
mhm,
almost like a spiritual experience, really, in many ways as
mhm.
well. So
Yep.
that
Yeah,
can
I would agree. I would agree. When we enter into a flow experience, there is a blurred boundary between self and others, self and environment, and you enter into an altered state. And you know, when we're in an altered state, especially if it's a pleasant one, then we're talking about something that is engaging the spirit, you know, and on some level, then for some people that could be end up feeling spiritual, right? Like an athlete who enters into flow, like a rock climber. That's who Csikszentmihalyi, his original research was on rock climbers.
Mm-hmm.
And the rock climber will look at the rock wall and say, this is my church, you know, because they enter into this sort of spiritual experience, and so many different recreationalists will say that about a serious leisure that they have. And so yet you see what I'm saying, we're just not quite talking about it, it's like what you were talking about with the diversity and inclusion and all of these kinds of things. It's like the first thing for change is we have to start to talk about it, right? And we have to start talking about these things that scare us, and then we start getting the ball rolling. Okay, at least now we're talking about it, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, and then we can actually start making change for the better, inside of ourselves and in our relationships and how we behave. And I think that having these kinds of conversations where we talk about things that are scary, I think is so important.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
so just to uh ask the question again. So nothing should be taken out only thing should be added? I'm just asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'm going to be my opinion on this. And my opinion on this is that um, the curricula in recreation is, to me, it's based on uh, the roots of the profession, which is in kind of city parks and rec,
Mm,
and or different levels of park stewardship type of thing, different levels like city, county, state parks, and those kinds of things, which are all just thank goodness that 100 plus years ago that recreation began to emerge as a profession to help support young people getting out of trouble. And then it started to go from there and into stewardship of the lands, and also with John Muir and different key pioneers to take care of the land, but also help people to play. Because as a side note, in 2003, I had the fortune of being invited to Russia, to Moscow,
wow.
and I was hired. I know I was just truly a life changing experience. So it's 2003. They flew me to Moscow. I lived there for 30 days at this sort of camp for kids. It seemed to be like affluent kids. And the point of it was to I would facilitate adventure games and adventure experiential education with the kids, doing team building, trust, cooperation, inner development, type of thing. And in the process, they were learning English. And I had a translator. None of them spoke English, and they were all, baby steps of learning English. But it was so striking to me because they literally did not have organized recreation.
Wow.
When I would ask them, what do you do on the weekend? They would look at me with blank stares. They literally they were recreation poor. They
Mm,
were, it was, I was so taken back that, like, walking was the primary activity.
wow.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
if they were lucky, that wasn't altogether true, because as I spent more time there, they did have some things like during the summer they would go to like a little summer cottage, a Dachau, I forget how to say it. I'm said it wrong. But they would go to dacha. They would go to a dacha, and they might go to a lake and swim, but even then they would get ice cream.
wow.
But it was, I just was amazed at it. So it made me deeply appreciative of the history of our profession, and that this emerged in our country, this organized recreation, that there are city parks and rec to help organize recreation, to help our community to play. Because getting back to our earlier conversation, and I think I was sleepy at the beginning of our podcast and I didn't do a very good job responding, but what getting back to that is, city park and recreation came about because people didn't know how to play. People
Absolutely.
didn't know how to organize. And that's not, of course, altogether true, because of course people throughout history knew how to get a stick and something and to play with it, right? Like, but yet at the same time, um the fact that our professions emerged is because people struggled. How can I play and not get in trouble? And
Right.
so there is this need for the infrastructure of organized park and recreation. Now, how can we advance our academics to today's needs? Okay, so because one of the concerns that I have is, to what degree do our city park and recreation and parks professionals, to what degree do they have a recreation degree? What
Right.
what percentage of people working in these recreation industry, what percentage have a degree in recreation? And that's been a point of conversation. This isn't a new conversation, right? And there's research done on this, but it's something that concerns me, because if a good a larger percentage of professionals in our industries, if a small percentage has a degree in recreation or recreation therapy, then what are we doing,
Right.
right? Like, uh, how do we want to really address that? What if you're really good at marketing, then you should be marketing the recreation, and is it our job to be marketers, or is it better suited that we hire someone who's got a background in marketing, and we don't do that part? So if and if you're good in accounting, you do the accounting because you're a professional in accounting. So if we farm out the various aspects of our agency to people who are prepared for that, then and we claim what is ours, and by claiming what is ours, instead of trying to like have a curriculum that is, a jack of all trades, a master of none, um I think it would be a fun experiment to have to really fully claim what are we, and then have curriculum on that,
Mm-hmm.
and so that that the entire curriculum, instead of being a curriculum where you learn a little bit about management, you learn a little bit about facilities, you learn a little bit about administration, a little bit about budgeting, and you kind of learn the little bits of the whole business of recreation, which is a little bit like an MBA on an undergraduate level. At some level,
Yeah.
it could be argued that way. And then squeezed in there somewhere, you might have some leisure philosophy if you're lucky, and then learning about wellness and wholeness, learning about programming. So is programming what we do? It's kind of like that's a little bit how the progression of things have gone, is that what's the heart and soul then of recreation and leisure, about what it is that we do, our piece of the pie, right? And it's kind of settled into recreation programming. Okay, so we're programmers, but see, to me, that's missing that's missing the boat. Like, maybe it is, we could hang our hat on, oh, okay, we are recreation programmers. So then you have a whole curriculum then then about recreation programming. But if that's where we're at, then we're missing, I think, these future pieces that we've been talking about experience design, transformation design, and then the philosophy behind what it is, why we exist. Why does recreation as a professions exist? And to me, it's because we hold something very precious, recreation and leisure and play, for our communities. And to me, it's not programming.
I'm
It
just
it isn't. It's actually really understanding recreation, leisure, and play, and its function for human evolution.
yes,
And
yes.
if we can understand really well, how is recreation, leisure, and play a function of human health, wealth, and evolution? Then we, with that self knowledge, I think we can actually serve our communities in a way, with a different paradigm than what we started with. We started 100 plus years ago with helping teenagers to stay out of trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and that's still necessary, right? But i
Yes.
think i think looking inward, why do we exist? And then having that inform the next 100 years of what we can become for our communities, because we have a responsibility to know our purpose, like in an existential way, like in a spiritual way, in and I think we're running on fumes of the birth of the profession, of its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Its purpose was diversion. Its purpose was play and like maybe life enjoyment and staying away from freedom from, getting in trouble, freedom to being more productive.
Yeah.
And productiveness was also an important part of the ethos of the inception of our professions. And
Mm-hmm.
those are great, but they are um on Maslow's hierarchy of it's lower, right?
Yeah. Much
and
lower.
and it's much lower. And I'll say one more thing and then I'll shush. Is that one of my favorite models of our collective professions is Nash's hierarchy of need. I'm sorry, Nash's hierarchy. And Nash, 100+ years ago, created a triangular model, just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But this hierarchy of leisure, recreation, and play, where the bottom level of the triangle is harm to society. So your recreation, leisure, and play is a harm to society. And then the next level is your couch potato, you know, and or social media. You're just kind of getting lost in something that is just kind of emptiness in on some level. And then it starts progressing up to the top of the pyramid where you're creating. And at the top, the top of the leisure is actually creating things. And then that goes well with Csikszentmihalyi. It's towards the top of the pyramid, and serious leisure it's towards the top of the pyramid, where we are getting deep fulfillment because we're doing a podcast in my free time. No one's paying you to do this podcast, but you're creating something, not only because you're getting great joy and fulfillment out of it, but it's a service to our communities. And that is a totally different quality of recreation, leisure, and play. And that is, in my view, the paradigm shift that of just owning that instead of our purpose is to get people from the bottom of the Nash pyramid to the next one up. Our purpose is, let's claim that the top of that pyramid as our next 100 years. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want
Mhm.
to thank you, Dr. Ross, for answering that question. I could not have answered it any better than the way that you just did now for our and for us. So enlightening, so inspiring, and really stressing the critical nature that we as practitioners claim our wheelhouse, and really improved quality of experience and quality of transformation for our clients and for our communities. And guys, with that being said, that's the first segment for our talks with Dr. Suzy Ross. Please stay joined for our next segment. You don't want to miss it. Thank you, Dr. Ross, and we will see you guys soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.